When a Chinese DF-21D missile screamed across the South China Sea at Mach 10, the ocean lit up like a second sunrise. Its target, a U.S.-flagged supertanker worth $42 billion, took the hit broadside. Steel buckled, fuel erupted, and within 6 minutes, the waves were burning. From Pearl Harbor to Guam, alarms cascaded through encrypted Navy channels. The Liberty Dawn was down, and America had just been struck in open waters. Now the question echoing through the Pacific Command Center wasn't who fired. Everyone knew. It was how fast the U.S. Navy could strike back before the next missile left its launcher. 0540 local time. The Liberty Dawn, a massive U.S.-flagged supertanker hauling crude through the Paracel shipping lane, cuts a steady wake across the South China Sea. Its decks gleam under gray dawn light. Calm seas, no warnings, no escorts but a civilian supply ship 20 miles astern. But hundreds of miles away, on a Chinese coastal radar grid, her profile is locked in. For hours, the ship has been tracked, tagged as a civilian target of interest. Then, in an underground command room, an officer gives a single word: fire. The DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missile roars to life, climbing through thick clouds at 10 times the speed of sound. It arcs high, disappears from Chinese radar, and reappears moments later as a blinding streak descending from the edge of space. The impact is catastrophic. The missile punches through the tanker's deck like a spear through paper. A shockwave tears across the hull, flames whip 50 feet into the air. The bridge crew, dazed and bleeding, send desperate mayday signals into secure Navy frequencies. For 6 minutes, the South China Sea burns. At the PACOM Command Center in Hawaii, Admiral Hayes listens in silence before giving a single order: flag this as an act of war. The 7th Fleet scrambles from Yokosuka, destroyers turning east at full thrust. The attack has just rewritten the rules. How fast can the U.S. Navy strike back before escalation spirals out of control? 0600 local time. Inside the Pacific Command Operations Center at Pearl Harbor, the room hums with red alert lights. Admiral Hayes stands at the head of the situation table, a live satellite feed frozen on the moment of launch. A white plume rising from Yongtsing Island. The origin is undeniable. Confirm the launcher, he says. Analysts respond within seconds. YJ Command Battery 04, active. That's all he needs. Within 2 minutes, the order goes out. Carrier Strike Group 9 to Condition 1. Across the Pacific, the USS Theodore Roosevelt shifts from routine patrol to full combat readiness. Sirens wail through its decks. Pilots sprint down illuminated corridors. Hangar doors roll open as E-2D Hawkeye radar planes taxi to launch position, their spinning domes sweeping the pre-dawn sky. Meanwhile, E-18G Growlers warm up on the carrier's aft deck. Their mission simple: jam every Chinese communication frequency from Yongtsing to Hainan. Within 5 minutes, Chinese coastal command networks begin to flicker and die. At 0615, the Roosevelt's tactical display shows a clean line of engagement. The U.S. Navy now has the missile's birthplace in its crosshairs. Electronic silence falls over the room. The strike order hangs between 2 words: confirm or cancel. One more decision could ignite the Pacific. Will the U.S. strike risk igniting a regional war?
0620 local time. From Andersen Air Force Base in Guam, 3 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers lift off under complete radio silence. Their matte black wings vanish into the dawn sky, each loaded with precision bunker buster payloads. Their destination, Yongtsing Island, the fortified Chinese base that launched the missile. At the same moment, 400 miles to the southwest, the USS Higgins and its sister destroyers roll open their launch cells. "Tomahawk Block V away," the fire control officer calls out. Missiles streak from the waves, white smoke curling behind them as they rise and arc toward the coordinates confirmed by satellite feed. The first wave of Tomahawks slams into radar towers and surface-to-air batteries. In seconds, the island's entire defense grid flickers out. Then the second wave hits, targeting ammunition bunkers and hangars. Explosions bloom like rolling thunderclouds. At 0632, the B-2s reach altitude. The lead pilot releases two GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. They dive through smoke and debris, cutting deep into reinforced concrete shelters. When they detonate, the shock ripples outward, turning hardened structures into dust. The satellite feed lags for 6 seconds. Then it returns, showing a roiling plume of fire stretching 3 miles wide, visible even from orbit. The island is burning. But as the smoke rises, encrypted intercepts hint at something else. A second launch system, possibly still alive underground. Did the strike completely destroy the Chinese missile systems, or is another launch incoming? 0645 local time. Deep inside the South Sea Fleet command bunker, Chinese officers shout over dead screens. Their launch systems blink red, then black. Yongxing Island is silent. No radar return, no telemetry. The network is blind. In desperation, orders go out for immediate retaliation, but the data link is corrupted before the command even leaves the console. Above the South China Sea, EA-18G growlers sweep wide arcs, jamming every frequency in range. Their interference paints the air like invisible lightning, spoofing coordinates and distorting signals. A Type 052D destroyer, desperate to show a counterstrike, fires a YJ-18 anti-ship missile into the sea. The weapon screams out at 540 kilometers per hour, but with no target lock, it plunges harmlessly into open water. The plume is its only success. Under the waves, the USS Missouri, a fast attack submarine, moves quietly through the wreckage zone. Her sonar crew tracks debris, fuel leaks, and the faint echo of collapsing structures on Yongxing Island. On sonar, the island sounds like it's tearing itself apart. By 0619, communications across China's forward command zone collapse entirely. Their satellites show static, their warships drift blind. Meanwhile, the U.S. task force closes in, ready, waiting, silent. With China's systems down, will the U.S. deliver a final message or step back? 0710 local time. The final transmission from Yongxing Island cuts out mid-sentence, a burst of static, then nothing. From Guam to Pearl Harbor, the data screens flatten into silence. The island is gone. High above, an MQ-4C Triton drone sweeps the coordinates. Its high-resolution feed shows only smoke columns where an airstrip once stretched. Barracks, radar arrays, and the island's main command bunker all erased. The ground temperature tops 1200 degrees Celsius. No structure remains standing. On board the USS Higgins, the bridge crew watches as sensors confirm the destruction radius, 3 kilometers end to end. The engagement window, 29 minutes 42 seconds. From the first strike to the last explosion, the operation has ended faster than most training simulations. In Beijing's Naval Command Hall, the atmosphere freezes. No one speaks. The decision is made: halt all further retaliation. For the first time in hours, the South China Sea grows quiet again. As global networks broadcast satellite images, the world sees the impossible. An island, once alive with military power, reduced to smoke and seawater. 30 minutes, that's all it took. Has deterrence been restored or just postponed for the next spark? In just half an hour, the Pacific balance shifted. A single U.S. counterstrike erased a fortified island and reminded the world that escalation can disappear as quickly as it begins. Precision, coordination, and speed, 30 minutes that rewrote modern deterrence. The message was clear: technology may start a war, but discipline decides how it ends. Subscribe for more real-time Navy missions, declassified operations, and stories the headlines never tell. Power restored through precision, silence earned through strength.